For nearly a century, every freight train had one. It didn't matter whether the train was hauling coal, automobiles, grain, or even shipping containers. There was almost always a caboose riding at the very end. And today, they're virtually completely gone. Most people assume railroads got rid of the caboose because technology improved. Well, that's true enough, but it isn't the real story. The caboose didn't disappear because railroads stopped liking cabooses. It disappeared because railroad executives discovered there was a much cheaper way to accomplish every job the caboose was already doing. My name is Mark Magana, and this is Railroad Economics, where we explain why railroads do what they do and how the business really works. When I was making my outline of the points I wanted to hit on this video, something caught me off guard. I was born in 1980. I am 46 years old at the time this video is being made. I remember cabooses. I was lucky enough to not live too far from a main line of the Santa Fe, and we would see cabooses on trains all the time when I was young, very young, a toddler. So I remember them, but just barely. And I'm approaching the half century mark. So before all the trolls start typing about how stupid it is to need to explain to people what a caboose is, it's very possible the younger people watching this channel have never actually seen a caboose unless they visited a railroad museum. Think about that. Cabooses were at the end of virtually every freight train, and they weren't there just because the railroad thought they looked cool. They served several important jobs. The conductor often used it as a rolling office. Crew members would rest there between duties. And from the cupola, that's that little box kind of at the top in the center of a caboose, or on other cabooses, they had these bay windows, these wide side windows. They would watch the train for problems like loads shifting or equipment falling off or dragging or overheating bearings and so on. For generations, it was considered an essential part of every operating freight train. So, what happened? Here's what's interesting. Railroads didn't wake up one morning asking, how do we replace the caboose? Instead, they asked a much better business question. What jobs is the caboose actually performing right now? Once they broke that question apart, they realized almost every one of those jobs could be done cheaper and in another way. Take train inspections. Decades ago, crews in the caboose constantly watched for hot bearings, dragging equipment, broken loads, other problems. But over time, freight cars became much more reliable. Roller bearings largely replaced the old friction bearings that were much more prone to overheating. At the same time, railroads installed trackside detectors that automatically listen for bad bearings, for faulty equipment, and for other mechanical issues as the train passes. The train was now being inspected by technology spread out all across the railroad's network instead of by a few people having to ride in one car on every single train. Then there was the question of monitoring the rear of the train. That job eventually went to a small electronic box called an end of train device. If you're new to trains, it's simply that little blinking box on the last car of the train. You've probably noticed them. Maybe not. Look next time a train goes by. Actually, if you look carefully, there's one coming up in just a moment. Many railroaders also call it a FRED, which stands for flashing rear end device. It's a nickname that was mostly just used by railroaders. It's kind of been hanging around for decades, but the technical, the official name is an EOT or an end of train device, and it continuously monitors brake pipe pressure at the rear of the train and then communicates that with the locomotive. That's a job that once required an entire rail car. Now it can be done by this little box that you can carry in one hand. Radios largely eliminated the need for crew members to be physically separated between the locomotive and the caboose. At the same time, freight crews became much smaller than they had been decades earlier. There simply weren't as many people who needed a rolling office or living space anymore. The railroad itself had evolved, but the caboose had not. And that's where economics became impossible to ignore. A caboose wasn't free. It had to be purchased, it had to be maintained, it had to be inspected, it had to be repainted. Its wheels, its brakes, its couplers, its bearings, they all required periodic maintenance and replacement, just like any other freight car on the train. It occupied a lot of valuable yard space. Keep in mind, there was a caboose for every train on the network. That's a lot of cabooses taking up a lot of yard space. And every trip, the caboose added thousands of pounds that a locomotive had to pull across hundreds or even sometimes thousands of miles. One caboose might not seem like much, but multiply that by thousands of trains every year across several major railroads. And eliminating a single unnecessary rail car from every train translated to millions and millions and millions of dollars. Today, cabooses haven't disappeared completely. You will still occasionally find them on some local freight trains, maintenance trains, and of course, there's some that are preserved at museums where they serve a useful purpose and they look nice. But for the vast majority of freight trains crossing North America, the caboose didn't disappear because technology won. The caboose disappeared because economics did. There were cheaper ways to perform every job it once did. And in the railroad industry, that is usually how history gets made. This has been Railroad Economics. My name is Mark Magana, and thank you so much for spending some time with us today.